Hello guys, welcome back to another video on GW37 football. Another FPL video. Let's get right into it. First, we're gonna be going and talking about our game week 36 review and how we performed in terms of points. Next, we're gonna go into the most transferred in players for this week, and after that, we're gonna look into the most transferred out players for that week, this week as well. After that, we're gonna be looking to the best fixtures for game week 37. And after that, we're going to be going into our Game Week 37 transfer plans and how we're going to be lining up. And lastly, we're going to be looking into our Game Week 37 predictions. Okay, so as I said, let's first look into our Game Week 36 review. First up with me, um, I managed to score for this game week, I managed to score 93 points with a good, a small green arrow back into the 600,000. Overall, pretty much the main man was pretty much Holland, with the captaincy being with 42 points. Captaincy on Holland. Pretty much, if you did not have Holland for this week, or if you did not captain him this week, pretty much you had a bad week. Overall, in terms of my other game week players, I did have Son and Mitchell on the bench. Mitchell did manage to score a goal and keep a clean sheet up against United. But who would have thought that? I did play Virgil instead, but it's unfortunate, but whatever. And Son was on my bench over Garnacho. In hindsight, I should have put in a Son over Garnacho, but overall, team performed pretty standard, and that's my game week.
Yeah, so now going on to what I did for game week 36. I did pretty bad, 67 points, just below average. Some things to point out, I did have Flecken and goal with 10 points and Reglon with 8 points as they had a draw this weekend, so pretty good there. And then Walker and White doing all right. Walker not so good. Um, and then Havertz on my captaincy in the midfield, just overall a average midfield, nothing crazy. But Havertz, I did captain him, and he only managed to get an assist in that win against I believe who was it, up against Bournemouth. And yeah, my strikers up top with Hoyland, Isak, and Watkins. Watkins and Hoyland just not doing very good at all. Isak did score 2 goals, 7 points. Definitely could have gotten closer to like 15 points, but that penalty he missed it cost him there. So I don't have Holland on my team, so it ended up hurting me this week. But um, yeah, that's what I did for this game week.
Now moving on to the most transferred in players for this week. First on our list is of course Erling Haaland with a massive in terms of right now over 400,000 managers transferring him in. It's definitely right now it's definitely more, but yeah, I mean Erling Haaland has scored I do believe he scored 3 goals within the first half against Wolves, and then in the second half he did manage to score another goal. So overall, within that game, he did manage to score 4 goals. And if you captain him, you managed to get a massive over 40 points on Holland. And definitely overall, in terms of looking forward, he does have a double game week in game week 37. So definitely a great pick to have and a great captaincy for this week as well. Moving on to the next player that we do have on this list is Nicholas Jackson, coming in at a cost of 7.0. And Nicholas Jackson as well has been performing well for Chelsea. Could you tell me how many goals he scored against in this last fixture?
He scored 2 goals, and I believe he got an assist in there as well, so doing pretty well.
So yeah, I mean Nicholas Jackson has been performing well, and definitely looking forward into his game week 37. He does have a double as well, so both players on this list do have a double, and definitely looking forward. Definitely great picks if to have, even if you're bench boosting for this week as well.
Yeah, so now going on to the most transferred out players for game week 37. First on our list, we have Shar from Newcastle. He is on my team, and reason he's one of the most transferred out players is he's going to be out for the rest of the season, the last 2 games. so he's not going to be available. And I will be transferring him out this week, so definitely a player to be taken out of your squad if you haven't already. Another player on this list here is Watkins from Aston Villa. Also on my team, and he hasn't been scoring as of late. Just mid this week, his team got eliminated from the Europe Conference League, where he didn't score. I think the last couple games he hasn't scored either. Um, and this week, I believe he's going up against Liverpool at home. So just not sure if I'm going to be taking him out or if I'm still going to be keeping him, but we'll see.
Now moving on to the best fixtures for game week 37. This week we do have a bunch of doubles, pretty much just pretty much Brighton, Chelsea, City, United, Newcastle, and Spurs have doubles, but we managed to compile a list of four teams that have good players to pick from, and overall teams in form. First on our list is Man City versus Fulham and Spurs. Overall, Man City have been performing well, and they are going for that Premier League title. It's pretty much they need to win every single game in order to have the best chance in winning the Prem title. And up against Fulham and Spurs, both games are away. Overall, as I said before, City are on good form, and overall, if you have it's very good to triple up on City players with pretty much having at least whether it be a Guardiola and as a defense, midfield being a Foden or a De Bruyne, and up top being a Holland, with a good differential pick being a Ederson. Overall, it's definitely noted to have um, three players from Man City within your team for this game week.
Yes, definitely. Another team that you can maybe triple up on is Spurs, who also does have a double game week this week, and both of their games are going to be at home. First game up against Burnley, a team that's fighting for regulation. I mean, you can almost count them into regulation for next season. But also another game is a Man City game where Tottenham, even though they're not in the best form, but I think like past games they do tend to perform even in their like not the best form. They do tend to perform pretty well against this match like a Manchester City team. So I think some players to really point out from the Spurs team that you could maybe triple up on is definitely Heung-Min Son, who could also even be a good captaincy, or even a Vicario in goal, Pedro Porro. Yeah, so definitely some good players there to triple up on.
So yeah, moving on to our third spot being Newcastle versus Brighton and Manchester United. Overall, Newcastle as well has been performing well, with the main players being Isaac, Gordon, and even as of right now, Shaw is out for the whole season. So instead of Shaw, you could bring in a Dan Burn from Newcastle, or even a bit of a differential pick of a Nick Pope. I do believe Nick Pope is back from his injury. Whether or not he managed to get any minutes is kind of a pick whether or not you want to gamble or not. But overall, the main three players being Isaac, Gordon, and uh, Dan Burn.
Yes, definitely. I think now going on to our last pick here, Chelsea, who's going to be also having another a double game week this week. They are going to be playing away both of their games. First against Nottingham Forest and then against Brighton. Um, some players that you can maybe choose from this Chelsea team. Definitely Cole Palmer, Nicholas Jackson, or even a Cucurella in defense. Some players to really keep in mind. Nicholas Jackson, who last game scored 2 goals, got an assist, doing very well. I think is a player that can get some good points this week, along with Cole Palmer, who could also be a potential captaincy for like a differential if you don't have a Holland.
So now moving on to our Game Week 36 transfer plans for this week. I do have one free transfer and 5.6 in the bank, but I do plan on doing a -4 hit in order to get in as many double Game Week players for this week. So my first transfer that I do plan on doing is Steele to Vicario. Steele has been in my team for quite a while now, but overall, he has not been the best player to have in my team. He's definitely not the main pick for Brighton, and it's definitely time to get rid of him for a Vicario who has a good double overall. Pretty much, he has Burnley at home and Man City at home. As we said before, Tottenham do manage to get at least something. Always manage to get something against City, and whether or not that happens this week, who knows? But yeah, this is my first transfer. My next transfer is going to be Virgil to Dan Burn. Overall, Liverpool have not been in the best form, and same with Virgil. He's pretty overpriced with the he's pretty priced, highly priced. So moving away from a Virgil to a Dan Burn kind of makes sense. Where Dan Burn does have a double for the lined up for this week, and Newcastle are in the better form. So yeah, that being said, this is how I'm gonna be lining up for my game week 37. Lining up with a 3-5-2 and 6.6 million in the bank. For this week, I do have Pickford in goal. It doesn't really matter who I have, as I'm going to be doing the bench boost, but I do have Pickford in goal. Back three of Dan Burn, Guardiola, and Gabriel. A midfield five of Foden, Palmer, Garnacho, Gordon, and Son, with my front two being Isaac and Holland. Of course, my captaincy being on Holland, since he does have a good. I know he's come out with that 4 goals against Wolves. Definitely the main captaincy for this week. As I said, I was gonna be bench boosting, so my bench is looking like Vicario, Mateta, Pedro Porro, and Mitchell. And yeah, this is going to be lining up for game week 37.
Now going on to my game week 37 transfer plan for this week. I do have 2 free transfers as I rolled my transfer from last week onto this week. My first transfer for this week is going to be definitely getting rid of Shar from Newcastle to a Guardiola from Man City and tripling up on these Man City players. I really like Guardiola as he is a very attacking player for Man City, being a double game week player. I do think there's a possibility for a goal or an assist in there or even a clean sheet. So a really good player there. And then going on to my second transfer for this week is going to be Hoyland to a Nicholas Jackson. Seven, both of these players being a 7 million player, so no loss in income there. Nicholas Jackson being more in form as he last game he did score 2 goals, so definitely him being a double game week player. I do believe he is going to score big this week, so that's why I brought him in this week. And then lastly, this transfer is I am going to be taking a -4 for this one, but it pertains more to bringing in a double game week player and just doubling up on those double game week players and having more of them so I could score bigger as I am going to be doing the bench boost. But this transfer is going to be Flecken to Vicario from Tottenham, as he will be having that double game week, one first game week, or that first game against Burnley, who I do believe is a really good game for that Tottenham team, even though they're, I mean, not the best as of late. But and then secondly against Man City, who we've been mentioning, it wouldn't be a surprise if they give a surprise to Man City and even drop them out of that title race. So I do think that these are my transfers for this week. And now going on to my lineup for this week, I will be doing a 3-5-2 with zero point 0.5 million in the bank. First in goal, I have Vicario, and my back line of three with Pedro Porro, Walker, Guardival. And my midfield consisted of Phil Foden, Son, Palmer, Havertz, Bruno Fernandez, and my strikers up top with Nicholas Jackson and Isak. My captaincy is gonna be on Hyung Min Son, as I don't have a Holland. I am just gonna be rolling without him for the rest of the season, but I do think Son is gonna be a very good captain for this week, um, especially with that Burnley game, and both games just being at home makes a lot of sense there. And my vice captaincy being on Cole Palmer. And considering I'm going to be doing my bench boost, my bench is consisted of Pickford, Watkins, Reglon, and Ben White.
Now, lastly, let's move on to our Game Week 37 predictions. Last week on Game Week 36, we both tied 2-2 in terms of our predictions, so no one won the predictions last week. So first, let's move on to Fulham versus Manchester City. Fulham is facing Manchester City at home. First game of the week. Fulham last week did manage to keep a tie against Brentford, and Manchester City, of course, are on their ruthless run, which they did beat, come off from a winning 5-1 against Wolves. So I do believe this is going to be a City win for this week, winning the game 2-3.
Yeah, I do think City are also going to win this one away against Fulham 3-1.
Now moving on to Bournemouth against Brentford. Bournemouth last week did lose against Arsenal, but that was pretty much a very tough fixture, and Brentford did tie against Fulham. Um, Bournemouth are in the 10th position, and Brentford are pretty close to relegation, but I do believe they are safe. Overall, I do believe Bournemouth is the better side, and since they are at home, I'm gonna give him the win for this week, winning the game 2-1.
For this one, I'm just going to give it a draw 1-1 against these two.
Now moving on to Everton against Sheffield United. Last week, Everton did manage to tie up last week against Luton, 1-1, which was a pretty tough fixture given that Luton are facing relegation and they do need to get points on the board. Overall, Sheffield United have already been relegated, so it doesn't really matter. And I do believe this is going to be an overall easy win for Everton, winning the game 2-0.
I don't think Everton is going to be able to keep a clean sheet for this one, even though they're going to be playing at home. But I do think they're going to win this game 2-1.
Now moving on to Newcastle versus Brighton. Newcastle facing Brighton at home, and always Newcastle perform the best when they are at home. In terms of Brighton, last week they did manage to beat Aston Villa at home, 1-0, and Newcastle did manage to beat Burnley away 4-1. So given those results, I do believe Newcastle is in the better form, and both of these teams do have a double. But for this one, I do believe Newcastle is going to destroy Brighton for one.
I think this is going to be a close game, but Newcastle is going to be able to pull it off. Hopefully, my Isaac is going to be able to do some score some points here, but I think they're going to win this one 2-1.
Now moving on to Spurs against Burnley. This is one of the first doubles for Spurs, up against Burnley, which are facing relegation. This is going to be a tougher type of game, I do believe, against Spurs, even though they are at home. Since Burnley are facing relegation, they need to get points on the board. But I do believe overall they're going to win the game at 2-1.
Yeah, I think Spurs are gonna win this one 3-1. They need a win. Last couple games they've been getting demolished, so they really need this win. I have them winning 3-1.
Now moving on to West Ham against Luton. Last week, West Ham has just taken batterings after batterings, just like Spurs. Last week, they did manage to lose the game up against Chelsea 5-0, and Luton did manage to get a point against Everton. West Ham, this is a game against West Ham at home, so but Luton are fighting relegation, so I could see the game going either way in terms of Luton winning it. So overall, I do believe this is going to be a tie 1-1.
I think for this one, I think West Ham is gonna come up with the win, possibly even get a clean sheet in there, and they're gonna win this one 2-0.
Now moving on to Wolves against Crystal Palace. Wolves last week did take a battering up against Manchester City, losing the game 5-1. And Crystal Palace did manage to beat Manchester United 4-0. So it's pretty much the opposite in terms of form. Crystal Palace are in great form. And given that it is at Wolves at home, I do believe it's going to be a tougher type of game for Crystal Palace. But overall, I do believe they're going to be taking the win, winning the game 1-2.
Yeah, I think for this one, I'm just gonna call it a draw. I know Crystal Palace has been playing very well, but since they're gonna be playing away at Wolves, I think Wolves are gonna be able to tie it up 1-1.
Now moving on to Forest against Chelsea. Forest are facing Chelsea at home. And given that Forest are facing relegation and they do need to keep at least getting some points on the board in order to stay out of relegation. On the opposite side, Chelsea have just won a game against West Ham 5-0. So Chelsea are in terms in great form, but I do believe, given that Forest being in dire need of points, I do believe they're going to be managing to win the game 2-1.
Yeah, for this one, Chelsea I think are gonna be able to pull it off. It's just gonna be a very close game, a lot of goals, a good game. I have them winning, Chelsea winning 3-2.
Now moving on to Sunday's fixtures, which is Manchester United against Arsenal, one of the games of the week for this week, of course. Given that Arsenal are fighting for the Premier League title, pretty much they need to win every single game, and Manchester United have come off a really bad game against Crystal Palace, losing 4-0. But overall, I do believe that doesn't matter to me. I do believe Manchester United are still Manchester United, and up against Arsenal at home, I do believe they are going to get something, whether it be a draw or a win. I do believe I am predicting a win for this one, winning the game 2-1.
Yeah, definitely. I think this one's going to be decisive for Arsenal if they want to stay in that title race. They are going to be playing away against Man U, who, I mean, they're not all that good. But I think Arsenal is going to win this one away 3-1.
Now moving on to our next fixture, Monday's fixture, Aston Villa versus Liverpool. Aston Villa are facing Liverpool at home, and as we said before, or as we talked about before, Aston Villa performed the best when they are at home. Given the fact that Liverpool did beat Tottenham last week 4-2, overall they are in pretty relatively okay form, and Aston Villa did lose against Brighton 1-0. I do believe this is going to be a tougher type of fixture, and I do believe the game's going to end in a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, I think this one is going to be a close game. I think Aston Villa. I'm hoping Watkins does end up showing up this game and winning this game. Aston Villa 2-1 against Liverpool.
Now moving on to Spurs against Manchester City. Spurs are facing Man City at home for this double game week. This is Spurs and City's second fixture. This is on a Tuesday as well. Given that Spurs last or given that Spurs in their current form, this is our predictions. In their current form, they lost against Liverpool 4-2, but who knows if they would have won against Burnley. Same with City in terms of Fulham, but I do predict both teams are going to win their previous fixtures. So both teams are going to be coming in this game with a win. So given that City are going for the Prem title and Spurs always get something against City, it's going to be a tougher type of game. Overall, I do predict City winning the game on 1-2.
Yeah, I do think this one also another decisive match for the title for City. Um, Having 3 games remaining, they have 2 games this week. This one being one of their, I guess you could say, tougher fixtures, but Tottenham hasn't been playing all that well. Um, Either way, I do see it a close game, but I do see City winning this one away 3-2.
Now moving on to Wednesday's fixtures, Brighton versus Chelsea. Brighton facing Chelsea at home. As we talked about before, Brighton are not in the best type of form, and I did predict for this game week that they were going to lose against Newcastle, and Chelsea are going to lose against Forest. So both teams, if my predictions are correct, are going to be coming off a losing streak. So given that, I do believe still Brighton are really bad and worse form than Chelsea. So I do believe Chelsea are going to be winning this game 1-3.
I have Chelsea having a really good double game week this week. First, and that hopefully win against Nottingham Forest, and then this game another win, racking up hopefully 4 wins in a row for Pochettino. I do think this is a really good Chelsea team, very young team, but I do think they're gonna pull off that winning streak and win 2-0 against Brighton.
Now moving on to our last fixture we do have on this. The last double game week is Manchester United against Newcastle. United facing Newcastle at home. Given the fact that I did predict a Newcastle win against Brighton, and I did predict a shocking type of victory for United winning against Arsenal, both teams are hopefully going to be coming up against each other with a win. Overall, Manchester United are always Manchester United, and as we saw before, they've lost against Crystal Palace, and I do believe they're going to be losing this game against Newcastle, losing the game 1-4.
Yeah, I believe this game is crucial for that sixth spot in Europa for that Europa League. So I think this is going to be a very important game for both of these teams, but neither are going to be able to. I mean, both of them are just going to draw this game, and none of them are going to be able to pull out a win. So I have them tying 1-1.
Thank you guys for watching. This has been Guys at the Seven Football with FPL Rich as well. We'll see you guys next week for our game week 37 or game week 38 FPL select our team selection. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.